with how much the Bears have been able to come back,
Yeah.
they were going to pull that off.
You just thought they were doomed for destiny, right? Because that's what they do every single week. And you have to be reminded, DJ Moore didn't play in this game, Roma Dunze, and yet Caleb Williams still had them one play away from pulling off this upset and still having a potential to be the #1 seed in the NFC.
Yeah, so the Bears fall out of contention to clinch the 1 seed in the NFC. You see the NFC playoff picture here. Currently, it is the Seahawks that are sitting there, but it is all coming down to the wire in Week 18 because the Niners, even though currently a wild card team, they can clinch the NFC West and the 1 seed with a win over Seattle in Week 18. So Lijay Douzable, Emily Proud, I'm Jacqueline D'Agostino. We also have Mackenzie Brooks joining us here as well in just a moment to go over the sports line model, what that's all going to say as well. There's Mackenzie. And Kenz, with this matchup in Week 18, how does the sports line model feel about Seattle versus the Niners when it's all coming down to the wire here?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, right? Winning this game really will get you the 1 seed here. Now, we give Seattle the 56% chance to win this game, in turn giving them the 56% chance at the 1 seed. Now, odds makers have it the other way, but you look at the home and road splits, and me and Lijay have talked about this for weeks with the Seahawks. This is a team that was 7-1 on the road this year, 7-1 last year on the road when people didn't even think they were a good team. Plus 12-point differential. Their pass defense allowing 80 less yards through the air on the road. So these are legitimate stats that we're looking at here with this team. So that's why we like them against the Niners here. And even the Niners, without that pass rush, you see they have to get themselves into shootouts. That's not necessarily going to be the Seahawks game here. And with that defense, I don't think they'll allow Brock Purdy and the Niners to play that type of game here. So while odds makers do like the Niners, we do like the Seahawks here because of those road splits. And I think that's basically the entire reason they're going to get the 1 seed here.
Yeah, me and the sports line model are in step right here. I have the Seahawks winning this division. And Kenzie can tell you for the last couple of weeks I've said the Seahawks are going to win this division. And Jacqueline, you talked about how the 49ers offense has played out of their mind. I think there is a caveat to that, and you play who's on your schedule. But when you look at what Brock Purdy has done over the last few weeks, he's done it against the bottom half of defenses in the NFL, right? And Ken's talked about it. They have to essentially get into shootouts. I mean, Phillip Rivers came off the couch, right, and had his way with this defense, the 49ers defense. I'm talking about it. And when you look at the Seattle Seahawks defense, one of the best defenses in football, to Kenz's point, on the road, they're probably a better team on the road than they are at home, right? Only one loss on the road. And that loss, it took Sam Darnold turning it over 4 times for them to even lose that game. And it was still a tight game. So when I look at it, right, I think styles always make fights. Talking about the high-powered 49ers offense, I'm going to lean into that type of defense that the Seattle Seahawks have. They're able to mitigate what Brock Purdy has done. And when you look at it, on the 6-game win streak, the 2 games where the offense really struggled, the Cleveland Browns, who actually have a really good defense, and they actually got outgained that game, but the Browns turned it over twice. That's why they lost that game. And then when you look at it, that is a game that is concerning for me when you look at what the 49ers have done on offense. That game, the Cleveland Browns, who actually have a really good defense, Brock Purdy and the offense struggled, and then the Carolina Panthers game. Remember, 3 first-half interceptions. If you're to do that against the Seattle Seahawks, you're not going to win that game. So I like the Seahawks in this spot on the road.
I'm going to need your very in-depth football analysis for this graphic that we're going to show.
Okay.
Because there's the Holy See. There's a bit of a connection here. Every time a new pope has been elected, the Seahawks have won 13 games and have gone to the Super Bowl. And they're kind of on track to do the same thing in 2025.
I mean,
Lijay,
if there's a new pope, it's hard to go against this, right?
Yeah.
But I talked about the matchup between offenses and defense, but how can you go against that? Right? A new pope is put into to play in office. The Seahawks go to the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl, but I do like them in the spot to win on the road versus the 49ers.
Kenz, does the sports line model factor in popes?
Yes, Emily, we do have the Pope code, and we do look at that often and when we need to, and it seems to line up with the way we feel about the Seahawks.
Okay, very interesting. Although I believe the Pope is a Bears fan, actually.
Yeah,
so
he's a White Sox and a Bears fan, so I don't know.
So he would not stamp off on this with Pope Leo. Either way, this division is ridiculous. There are a lot of Super Bowl contenders within this division. Speaking of, let's go to the NFC South. Tons of Super Bowl connections there. Okay. It's going to be simple, Kenz, right? If Atlanta loses tonight, it's just between the Panthers and the Bucs in Week 18. I made it simple, but I know there's a few other things that could potentially happen. Walk us through the scenarios for the NFC South.
Yes, you laid out the easy path. The more difficult path, the more fun path, if we want to think about it, is if Atlanta pulls off the upset tonight, and then Atlanta goes on to win out. Even if Tampa Bay beats Carolina this weekend, that makes everybody 8-9. That would mean Carolina still will be the NFC South division winner because of the tiebreakers, common opponents, etc. So I'm calling this Atlanta win like the profit boost essentially for Carolina. It's just going to help their chances here, and it doesn't make everything on the line for this Tampa Bay game. But yes, the most likely outcome will be whoever wins this Carolina-Tampa Bay game. We still only give Carolina the 43% chance to beat Tampa Bay, which I know feels silly after they've already beaten them, but you just look at the talent and the ceiling of Tampa Bay. It's still hard for and numbers and data to rationalize this Carolina team being favored over 50% against this Tampa Bay team and the potential that they have. So they are big Atlanta Falcons fans tonight, which is crazy to say considering they are in the same division as them. But then that team goes on to play the Saints. So it wouldn't be impossible to win out for Atlanta if they win this game tonight, and that would certainly help Carolina here.
I mean, in NFC South fashion, that's the scenario that would play out, right? The Atlanta Falcons upset the Rams, beat the Saints, and then Carolina loses to Tampa, but Carolina gets in because of the tiebreaker, to Kenzie's point. Kenzie knows I've picked Carolina the last few weeks. This Tampa Bay Bucs good right now, right? And you can blame all you want on the defense. The offense didn't play well versus a Miami Dolphins team that got boat raced the week before versus Joe Shiesty and the Cincinnati Bengals. The one thing the Carolina Panthers have been consistent in, Emily, win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. And you see it right there. Longest streaks, alternating wins and losses. They just lost last week.
The fact that they track this is very impressive.
That should let you know, because they lost last week, they're most likely going to beat the Bucs. Now, to Kenzie's point, the way funner thing would be for them to lose and Atlanta wins out. But I just think Carolina's playing more consistent when you talk about winning and losing and winning and losing. When you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have just been on a downward trajectory. They're giving up explosive plays. They can't stop the run on defense. And then the quarterback, he's banged up, but he has not played well over the last few weeks. So I'm leaning towards Carolina. Like I have the last few weeks, I think Carolina gets it done and ultimately wins the division.
All right, so not only is the NFC South coming down to the wire, the AFC North is as well. Shout out to the Browns for making this very interesting,
Love
right?
it.
Oh my goodness, and that disgusting AFC North weather as well. Now, Pittsburgh has won 9 of the last 11 games against Baltimore. They beat them earlier in this season. So with all of that, taking that into consideration, Ken's, where is the model at on this matchup with the Steelers and the Ravens? Because I don't know. Derrick Henry's insane. And I don't know where I'm at, but what does the model feel?
Yeah, we've actually gone back and forth. Like, there's been times looking forward to this Week 18 game. We've had the Steelers favored, back to the Ravens, back to the Steelers. Right now, we give Baltimore the 54% edge in this game right now, so in turn a 54% chance to make the playoffs. I know we don't have Lamar Jackson, but in a weird way, it kind of forces this offense to just do what they're good at, and that's run the ball with Derrick Henry and control time of possession and keep their suspect defense off the field. And clearly that's something that's been working for them here. And then you go over to the Steelers side, and you know they can only take so much advantage of this suspect secondary for the Ravens when they don't have their weapons, including Metcalf and now Darnell Washington, who's kind of been an emerging weapon for them down the stretch of the season as well. So the things you want to attack with this Ravens team, the Steelers don't really have the weapons to do that right now. And as far as the Ravens, if you can just do what we saw them do yesterday and use Derrick Henry the way you guys were mentioning, it doesn't feel crazy to think they can win this game with the backup quarterback here. So the 53% nod to them right now, but it certainly hasn't always been that way.
Yeah, Kenzie, we were having this discussion a few weeks ago, and I was like, the Ravens are cooked. And I just thought in no realm would the Steelers lose to the Browns, right? I said, even without DK, if they just run the ball like they did the week before versus the Lions, they're going to easily win this game. They were so concerned on stopping Myles Garrett and getting the sack record that I think it hurt them in this game. And then the loss of DK has been massive, right? Because the Browns predominantly play man coverage. And DK is one of those big physical receivers that can win in man coverage on back shoulder fades or even go balls. Well, Aaron Rodgers and the receivers that were there, they seemed like they weren't on the same page. And that hurt them in that game as well. So I have to lean towards King Henry. I think Todd Monken understood that he made a major mistake the week before versus the Patriots and not getting Derrick Henry the ball over the last 2 drives. Matter of fact, he had 21 carries in the first half, and had over 30-something carries, and had 200-plus yards rushing. I think they continue to run the ball. We don't know if Lamar Jackson is going to be healthy, but I really love what I saw from Tyler Huntley. If he does have to play in this stead, he uses mobility to pick up some crucial first downs, and he was efficient with throwing the football. He didn't throw for a ton of yards, but big-time third down completions. That touchdown in the red zone to Zay Flowers was monumental in that game as well. I like the Ravens to win this game.
I love that Myles Garrett himself even said after the game, I feel like they were way too concerned with me
and
not actually winning the football game. All they had to do was win, but we like it when it comes down to week 18. So those are kind of all the different things that could happen in the NFC. But there's one thing that there's not going to be a change, and that's the Packers. They are locked in with the 7 seed. So, Mackenzie, if we're looking ahead for the Pack, what does that mean for their potential playoff scenarios?
Yeah, so obviously you want to look at who would be taking that 2 seed, right? And it's kind of a dance between Chicago and Philadelphia right now. Now the swing and their chances to win that game is pretty substantial when you change it from Chicago to Philly. Versus Chicago, we have them as a 51% chance favorite there. So basically a pick 'em game, but if you're going to the link, that goes down to around a 41% chance to beat Philly in Philly. So obviously you're going to be rooting for Chicago there. That game came down to the wire. You know it's a team you can beat. It's familiarity as well. Again, any division game, you're going to talk about a pick 'em most likely here. So you probably want to see Chicago if you are the 2 seed here. Again, that's around a 10% difference in your chance to win that game, which feels pretty substantial. This is a really weird year of parity, right? If you don't have the 1 seed and you don't have that 100% chance to win round 1 and win the wild card, everything else looks brutal. Everything else looks pretty 50-50 here. So there's really no right answer, but I will say it looks like they have a way better chance of the model to beat the Bears and the Eagles.
Yeah, if you're the Green Bay Packers, you're most likely probably resting everybody this week because you can't move.
This could be seen as a positive.
Yeah, like literally both of their quarterbacks are banged up. Their running back, Josh Jacobs, is banged up. They got injuries along the offensive line. So like you said, this could be a positive. But you are praying that Chicago locks in the number 2 seed, right? Because this is a team that you're very familiar with. Both of those games came down to the wire. And adversely, I believe the Eagles have eliminated them the last 2 years in the playoffs. So you probably don't want to go to the link, as Mackenzie said. But you see all the injuries right here. Jordan Love, Malik Willis, Dontavian Wicks, right? Zach Tom. Like all these dudes are banged up. Why not get an extra week of rest to prepare? And Chicago's actually banged up right now as well. So you could potentially go into that game a little bit more fresher than them. So if I'm the Packers, I'm resting everybody this week. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they play the Minnesota Vikings. I would rest everybody and just get prepared to potentially play the Philadelphia Eagles. But you're praying that this is Chicago Bears.
Yeah, when the injury graphic is the entire screen, you probably want to rest if you can.
Yeah.
Lee J. Kens, we certainly appreciate it. Hang tight because, of course, we still have to